Why on earth is Bitcoin going from one high to the next? Of course, there is the ETF narrative, but who is actually buying? Is it small retail? Is it the big institutions? Who is buying the majority of those Bitcoin? We see it in this chart over here. Have a look at this. This is Bitcoin's price since beginning of the year at the bottom. And at the top, we see what kind of wallets tended to accumulate versus tended to distribute or sell. When it's in red, we see selling. When it's in blue, we see buying. The very first row over here shows all the wallets that hold at least 10,000 Bitcoin, so the mega whales. The second row shows the wallets that hold 1 to 10,000, and so it goes lower and lower, with the bottom row showing the wallets that hold less than 1 Bitcoin, so retail. Everyone was pretty much bearish at the beginning of the year. Then retail became somewhat more bullish, but the mega whales still sold. Then this suddenly flipped. Very interesting. And now look at this. Since the middle of October of this year, it is blue everywhere. Everyone is currently buying. That's a behavior we haven't seen the entire year. Everybody is bullish. Now there is a saying, right? Be greedy when others are fearful and be fearful when others are greedy. And currently everybody is greedy. Should we be fearful? Should we take some profit? For that, let's look at the unrealized profit. Because the idea is when a lot of people haven't realized their profit, they simply just see a lot of green. They might want to rebalance their portfolio, right? When Bitcoin goes up by 10x and the rest of your portfolio, your stock and your property, etc. doesn't go up by 10x, you might want to sell some Bitcoin to reallocate. So what we see in orange here is the relative unrealized profit. When this is high, times are dangerous. When this is low, times are safe. As in, you want to buy whenever this is low. And there's also a cumulative mean here in blue. This is simply where this value stood historically. So whenever the relative unrealized profit was below the mean, below blue, it would have been a comparatively better time to dollar cost average in than whenever we had been above. Then there's also 2 standard deviations from this to see the extremes. Now, just because we are above the extreme doesn't mean we can't rise further, right? Look at this. In 2017, we rose above this green line, but Bitcoin still had a massive rally ahead of it. So just because we are heated doesn't mean we can't go higher, at least temporarily. Now, currently, we have just crossed that mean. We could see a retracement. We have seen this in the past. Right? We crossed the mean over here. We saw a bit of a dip, but we are nowhere near the extremes. We are only halfway through the rally. And that rally since that bottom was more than a 100% gain. So maybe it's not that unrealistic to assume that we could see another 100%. Maybe not in the next year, but maybe over the next 2 or 3 years. Normally, we see quite a bit of a rally after the Bitcoin halving, which will happen in April of 2024. This video is sponsored by the premium membership. I never take any money from any crypto project. I never take any affiliate links from centralized exchanges. I never pump and dump coins. Instead, I offer valuable tutorials in the premium membership. Feel free to check it out. Now here's the problem. A lot of people try to front run the top, right? When everybody is expecting Bitcoin to hit 100K, then Bitcoin doesn't hit 100K and already turns around at 70K because people want to take profit and not risk never seeing the 100K. So maybe the upside volatility, the extremes won't be as high anymore as in the past. And maybe we don't see the doubling so quickly. So what I like to look at is what are the long-term holders doing? Because there are basically 2 types of holders in Bitcoin. There are the short-term speculants that simply just want to ride those waves, that try to exit whenever we are high and try to buy massively in whenever we are low. But there's also the long-term dollar cost averagers that only tend to sell when we are extremely, extremely heated and they simply just rebalance the portfolio. So let's have a look at those short-term versus long-term holders. In blue, we've got the supply of Bitcoin held by long-term holders. This is a very, very long-term chart starting in 2014. And over the long term, of course, more and more people accumulate Bitcoin. But note how sometimes this is dropping. And this tends to drop when we are rallying massively in the price. So the long-term holders might be willing to sell some of their BTC if simply they hold too much value in BTC in their portfolio. Now then it continues to rise, right? The dollar cost averagers continue to buy in And then again, they sell quickly once we hit those all-time highs in the Bitcoin price. That selling stopped with the first peak where Bitcoin was at around 60K. And since then, we continue to see dollar cost averaging. More and more supply is being held by the long-term holders. And there's the inverse here in red. This is the short-term holders, right? Of course, when there is a peak in the Bitcoin price, then a lot of the Bitcoin is in the hands of short-term holders. Now, the short-term holders, they buy because they want to profit from the current rally. They heard maybe about Bitcoin in the media, they hear about it making new all-time highs all the time, and so they simply just want to buy in for the short term. They might not even have made enough research to hold it for the long term. Thus, when the rally slows down just a little bit, then the short-term holders panic, and then the crash happens. So a crash always happens when a lot of Bitcoin is held by the short-term holders. And so the exact opposite happens when short-term holders hold no Bitcoin or very few Bitcoin, because they won't depress the price. I don't have a crystal ball either, but to me, this rally looks very, very healthy. Everybody is buying, from whales to the small potato. Short-term holders aren't coming in. It's mainly the long-term holders that continue to accumulate. And yes, it does make sense to be fearful when others are greedy, but I don't think we are now at peak greed. And we don't see too many random people on the streets that never had anything to do with crypto suddenly buying Bitcoin. Again, accumulation by everyone is going up, but it's going up because the long-term holders add to their wallets. The short-term holder balance continues to go down. If you appreciate this data, please give this a like. It will help the channel grow. There's also a Telegram channel with exclusive videos. Link is down below.